Hi everyone. No hat today. I've gone hatless. I've been wearing hats for so long. I thought I'd take a hat off. Welcome back to the live shows. We've clearly had a bonanza of Test cricket with both India and Australia today. Second Test. What can I say? Australia capitulated, failed, crumbled. Not like the pitch. Again, I'm sorry. Travis said opening is not the answer. Not the answer. Big mistake. Look, 12 of the first innings was ordinary. Dashing 39 in the second. But then the first thing this morning, he gives up his wicket. So, look, I don't think that was the answer. Matt Renshaw's all at sea. The poor guy hasn't got any confidence whatsoever. Peter Handscomb tried his level best. He's got to be commended. He hasn't been bad. Steve Smith's a bit out of sorts too. Overshade, 12 hard. Got a very good delivery. Quads I've got a lot of time for. I think he's really the quality that we need in that batting lineup. Jason Disease looks as if Joe wanted to go home early. Well, it looks like it will. Dave Warner will certainly be going home early. Dave Warner will certainly be going home early. He is destined because of a hairline fracture to his elbow and some concussion due to a head blow. I think the days of Warner, the series are more than numbered. He's over. Then it comes down to who they're going to open for the last two tests. Travis said is not the answer. If anything, Matt Renshaw would be a better choice, but he's batting atrociously as well. Marcus Harris is not around. Doesn't leave very much left to play. I'd even consider Peter Handscomb, but anyway, I think there's a real hole being left in the Australian side as far as their batting department goes. Look, Australia played very well in the first innings. I thought 263 was a commendable total under the circumstances, and they had. I thought 263 was a. They had India on the ropes, didn't they? But then Axar Patel came out and just took the game away from Australia somewhat. Ended up the team were all out for 262, 1 run less than the Australian score, and had a bit of a flurry and got 39. It looked like perhaps Australia's ascendancy on day 2 was there. But day 3 was an absolute schmozzle. They capitulated to the highest degree, being all out for 113. After being, 1 for 62? Australia were actually 1 for 62. Actually 1 for 65. Because, let me just confirm that. Travis Head was on 39, so he got 4 runs in the morning. About 4 or 5 runs were scored in the morning session before wicket fell. We went from 1 for 65 to all out for 113. So, that doesn't say much. Ashwin, 3 wickets. Jadeja 7, 10 in the match. Some 31 wickets out of the 40 that have fallen in this Test series have gone to Jadeja and Ashwin. Amazing. That's some 16 to Jadeja and 15 to Ashwin. Quite incredible stat. Let's just confirm it. Let's have a look see at the in this Test match, Ashwin got 3, Jadeja got 3 the first innings, and then 3 and 7 respectively, so 6 and 10. Pretty sure Ashwin got 9 in the first innings, and that's sounding like just about right. 31 between them. Mind-blowing. The series itself. Let's look at the Indian series versus Australia. In the first Test, the results. First Test, we had 177, 177. Jadeja took 5, Ashwin 3, and in the second, Jadeja took a further 2 and Ashwin 5. So 7 and 8 respectively. 7 and 8 respectively. Jadeja had 7, Let me get that right. So Jadeja had 2 and 5. So 2 and 5, and then further 7 and 8. So 7 and 8. 7 for Jadeja and 8 for Ashwin in the first. In the second, we see that Jadeja took 3 and Ashwin 3, so they went 10 and 11, and then ended up with, oh my God, 17 and 14. So actually, Jadeja got 17 of the 31 wickets between the two of them, and 14 have gone to Ashwin. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, scarily phenomenal. So India won by 6 wickets in the second test. In the first test, they won by, and let's look at the first test, they won by what? It was an innings, wasn't it? The results, this is always a bit harder. So India won by an innings and 133 runs, and then had won by 6 wickets in the second test. Quite scary situation indeed. And then you've got to take into account the Australian selections. Now, Head was dropped in the first, there's always furore. I didn't agree with it because I was quite happy with Head not being there. Bringing in Renshaw was a mistake. He probably deserved to be out. Hanscom was a bit doubtful, but he's proven to be worthwhile having. Khawaja has proven to be worthwhile. Smith certainly still a Labuschagne. Warner has been very disappointing, and Warner's injury has covered his dismal form, and he's out for the series anyway. So they've got to find a regular opener for Khawaja for the last 2 tests. It should not be Head. I don't believe it should be Head. It could well be Renshaw. That's the only possibility there at the moment. Bowling-wise, Boland, is he worthy? Yeah, Rowan Coley saying 4-0 loading. It certainly is loading. Boland, should he have been the side? I spoke to Shane Watson today and Russell Arnold, both at a multicultural cup day at the SCG. And Russell Arnold said 113, or Australia can't bat against spin. And Shane Watson said he can't remember the last time they selected 4 frontline bowlers, and when they actually one paceman in the line. Even though India had 3 great pace spinners, as in Axar Patel, Ashwin and Jadeja, who all took wickets and all scored runs too. They still had Sharmi and Siraj in the bowling line, 5 bowlers. The lack of Cameron Green has been a distinctive telling point, no doubt about it. And Shane Watson being all around made that pretty clear. But you do not rely on Head, Labuschagne and Smith to be your 5th bowling option. So that basically implodes the whole idea of having both Renshaw and Hanscom with Head in the side. And they say Head should bowl. No, he shouldn't bowl. He actually shouldn't bowl. So Australia needs to bolster that. We're probably going to see Stark return for the next test. Hopefully, if his injuries, and even Cam Green, although he's always doubtful. But they've got to rush those 2 back in at the expense of Renshaw and probably Head, which will mean it will look like a batting lesson, but it won't because Cam Green will be in the side. And ultimately, that'll be a booster there. So I think Australia need to have batsmen who can actually bat in these conditions. And even Carey was sweeping both reverse and normal sweeps poorly. The low ball, they were not playing forward defensively. If you're going to go back, you keep the bat low as well. So there's been a few mistakes made there quite clearly. So Australia were 263 and then 113 all out. India were 262, so 1 run effectively behind, but all they needed was 4 wickets to fall for their 118. They passed Australia's score. 110 balls of mayhem. How Australia would blow away in Delhi. So it was 110 balls of mayhem where Australia went from being 1 for 61 to being all out for 113. So 9 for 52. Top wicket takers so far have been Jadeja on 17 and Ashwin 14. Together 31 wickets out of the 40 that have fallen. Then Todd Murphy's gone to 10, which is admirable. Top run scorers, Rohit Sharma's 183, Axar Patel rose to 158, and Labuschagne, who's been consistent, was 3rd with 119. So it looks Nathan Lyon really got better in this innings. Yes, he took 5 wickets, and deservedly so, as did Todd Martin was said in the previous match. They gave Todd Martin very little to bowl, and they let Kernan take more of the slack, and he didn't do badly at all. Australia is highly overrated. I kind of think the same, to be honest. Norman, why are you always India? Dare to reply. No, that's not. I don't always follow India. That's not true. I support India because I think they play true cricket. I support England. They're playing magnificent cricket. They absolutely smashed New Zealand. New Zealand's a bit frustrating at the moment, but they still try very hard as well. Australia had it too easy. They played the West Indies and South Africa at home. Both were appalling and let Australia feel the sense of belonging and sensation. And Trevor said, overrated. Keep them in short form, go right ahead. Not a test team. Sampath, since 2000, Australia cannot handle spin. Oh, that's been a lot longer than that, probably. Norman, we love you. Thank you, MRV Pilal. I love you guys too, and I hope to see more of you. So India bloody will deserve this. They have now won the first test by an innings of 132 runs. They won this by 6 wickets in a canter. Even though it was bloody hard fought the first innings, Australia had to work their butts off. And all they did was just keep it level, and ultimately India just blew them away. They're 2-0 up out of a 4-test series. India can't lose the series now. They certainly can win it. Australia will still hold on to their World Test Championship position, and that will mean that you'll probably see India now as the other team without any doubt at all. England certainly deserve to be up there as well, but they didn't quite make it in time. New Zealand and the rest have been second rate. I think Australia getting tasted of their own medicine. Yeah, I agree. Wickets would suit Indians. Why wouldn't you do that? It's pretty bloody obvious. You would. I don't know what happened to Alex Carey's dismissal. He was trying to do a fancy-looking sweep shot. They're kind of trying the Bazball theory, but it's just not applied properly. There's not enough volition. It's pretty ordinary. Bakar Dadu, how are you? So close to get upper hand, yet getting a hiding and capitulating. Well, that's what happened. Bazball will not work in India, mark my words. Mr. Blue reckons, well, we'll see. Ajinka, so please reply on why Australia don't make spin-friendly pitches in their home. Good question. I don't know. I just don't know. Ajinka, I've answered your question. Stop spamming. So ultimately, going through the Indian lineup, Rohit Sharma was fantastic in the first test and pretty good in this test. Great captaincy. Rahul's a bit iffy, but will survive. Pujara was magnificent today. Obviously, batting out the innings on 31 not out, having hit 7,052 runs in his 100 tests, and a batting average of 44 deserves his position. Shrikar Bharat has kept a bit iffy to start with, but I think he's an admirable keeper and will come along very nicely. So Kohli's a bit up and down, but he's 44. I think in the first innings was pretty damn good. Then you've got Shreyas Iyer, very worthy of the position. Sky misses out, but yes, Shreyas Iyer was worthy of the position big time. Absolutely worthy of the position. So Shreyas Iyer's got a big future. So is Sky. We'll wait and see how that happens. And Ishan Kishan in the background as well. And Shubman Gill probably should be in place of Rahul. But in there, flying. Young Barrett's got better with his keeping, but wasn't brilliant. And then you got the terrible trio of Jadeja batting fantastically, Ashwin batting really well, and Aksa batting out of his skin. Followed by Shami and Siraj, who were very noble with their bowling attacks, taking wickets early on, doing their job very well. There was two of them, not one. Cummins alone was never going to do well for Australia. India got out of jail. Maybe another good bowler would have got on top of them. Still mixed records, Gill for Rahul. Yeah, I think so too. But I don't think India are going to make any changes when they won 2 tests so emphatically. Janesh Team India Kings of Cricket. I don't like the format of Test Cricket Championship. How can a team lose away in Test series away to big 3 and 2? Yeah, there needs a bit of sorting out with it. I'll agree with that. Krishna Mohan. Mukesh Chowdhury, CSL bowler, is losing run horse. There's a long run horse. A long shot, I reckon. Okay, well, let's see. Will Coldley get a chance? He should deserve one, but how do you get in front of the three spin bowls they've got? Ashwin and Jadeja are champions. They're a bit like a Broad Anderson team, really. For India's version of a Broad Anderson team is Jadeja and Ashwin. Akshar Patel is a superstar, I agree. Bowls well, feeds well, and bats well. I let Rahul just relax a moment. No issue there. So, the scorecard again reads pretty ugly for Australia. 263 in the first innings, but of course, Khawaja on 81, Hanscom 72. Both pretty commendable. Shami took 4 wickets in the first innings. We mustn't forget that, along with Ashwin and Jade taking 3 each. Patel didn't feature in the bowling that time, but then when it came to batting, Virat Kohli got a noble 44, and then Akshar Patel came out and scored 74, and Ashwin 37. Never in doubt, 262. Took a bit longer to get, but they got there. One run short of Australia, which is nothing to be embarrassed about. Nathan Lyon commendably got 5 wickets. Then Australia's second innings, oh God. Khawaja thought like a Jadeja, head Ashwin, Manas Abhijay, Jadeja, Smith and Restaurant, both Ashwin and Jadeja was the next. Jadeja, bowled Carey, Cummins and Lyon. And even Kuna, bowled the last 4 in quick succession, which leads to a dismal 7 for 42 off 12.1 overs. Why is Agar not in the playing 11? I don't know. Mohit Dubey, he should be there and he should be given a Guernsey. I agree. Ravindra Jadeja, 12.1 overs, 1 for 42. 7 for 42. Ashwin, 16 overs for 3 for 59. Shami only bowled the 2 overs. In fact, they didn't use Jadeja at all. And Patel bowled 1 over. So they were pretty ruthless, weren't they? Indian return, okay, they lost a few wickets. Sharma for 31, run out. Kohli stumped Carey by Murphy for 20. Shreyas Iyer caught Murphy by line. But that was never going to be enough. Carey by line. Oh. 31-1, 31-20, 12, 23. They weren't taking the second gear for sure. Lyon in the end, Nathan Lyon took, what did he take? Let me have a look here. He scored 8 runs with the bat, but Lyon scored 5 for 67 in the first, and then the second he took 2 for 49. So he was reasonable. Player of the match was Jadeja. His performance counted when they most needed it. So on the World Test Championship table, Australia are on 66.67 points, whereas India are on 64.06. They're a good almost 11 ahead of Sri Lanka, who are third. Something like 16 ahead of South Africa. Surprisingly, England are behind South Africa, and the West Indies, Pakistan, New Zealand, Bangladesh, holding up the tail. So realistically, Australia will play India in the World Test Championship final on June 7th to 11th on the Oval. That looks certain. Bloody awful. Australia are out for 88 last Test match, out for 113 this time. So you can't use the pitch. It's just an awful application to batting. That's my thoughts initially. Now, I don't know what David Graveney is. I thought David Graveney was going to come. I'll just check whether he's coming. I would like his take on the England and New Zealand series, which has been 4-0 is loading, and certainly is. It's more than loading. I think it's almost inked in. I don't know. I'm trying to find what's his name? Facebook. We don't have Facebook, that's for sure. Fox Twitter. Disappointed, shell shocked. Who's this? We've got some disappointed, shell shocked. I'm angry about the way that we went about Alan Border again. Is not a happy chappy. Is it a bit late? And people are saying this. So the Fox cricket are saying that they still don't quite know what actually happened. Well, Australia were beaten by a bloody better side, and they will continue to be so until we get some sort of act together to show otherwise. It really is a poor effort from. People are asking whether I'm from the USA, Australia. Trying to find this whole. Okay, beating India in India is kind of impossible. India lost only 2 Test matches in the last 10 years. This is a lot. Krishna Moore, defeat, dent, or blessing in disguise for Fidel. There's no dent. It's more than a dent. Subway Group are living. Beating India is kind of impossible. Thought that. Renshaw is only domestic player. No, he's played for his country as an opener and done, I thought, pretty well. So you can't knock him. England under 19s, would you believe it, were 8 for 158. Australia were none for 162. So they absolutely smacked them. England beat India. It looks like England will top the pool that they're in, with New Zealand hanging around as well. Let's have a look here. Colossal. So injuries abound. Features choice. No, it's just looking awful, I'm afraid. Anderson's ranked bowling. Anderson's ranking is very high. Hazelwood, he's injured. It must be injured, otherwise he'd be here. No doubt. So let's just quickly find the. I wanted to have a look at the way that England played. Let's have a look at the England scores. Test is now finished, of course. So live scores home. England, New Zealand. Here we go. So England have won comfortably. They won by 267 runs. In the first test in Mount Maunganui, which is Bay of Plenty or Bay of Pigs or whatever it is, it's near the North Island, well, way to the top of the North Island. So on the 16th and 19th, England were all 9 for 325 declared. New Zealand went to the bat and scored 306, chasing a 394 total. I'm not sure what 394 is. And then behind them were our English contingent of Mark Elson, who was there and he was batting, and they went and complained about the fact that there was bats involved with what appeared to be some sort of fixing. Anyway, in England were 9 for 325 and 374 in the first test, and New Zealand had 306 and 126 to recover. Not really much going on there. Where's and a few people missing here in terms of David Gravity certainly is one. And I'm disappointed because I wanted to get his perspective of England. So England scored 374 in their second innings, so they outstripped their first, which was 325. New Zealand were admirable in getting to 306, mainly because of their keeper, Blundell, who actually went on to score an unbeaten, or actually he got out for 138. Brilliant. In the second innings, England better steadily. Okay, New Zealand's last innings was 126, and they didn't rise. The only person who got runs was Mitchell on 57 and Bracewell 25. The rest all didn't get double figures, except for Latham got 15. So 15, 2, 0, 7, 57, 1, 25, 2, 0, 9, 8, 0. Pretty honest. Anderson took 4, Broad took 4, Ollie Robinson 1, Leach 1, and Root So there was no sign of the man that's in now, which is realistically, it's Chris Latham, if I'm not wrong. I had a mental block here. Blood milk. Henderson Arms. So I'm not able to find the name of the person that's been winning the wings, but yeah, they've been admirably taken care of, I'll tell you this much. Okay. Is the Indian team playing a blind, innovative, immature, and nervous panic? The Australian team that, well, there was a Test Championship would be a crack. No, I don't agree with that comment at all. Subway group of learning, whereas Rapakshi, bring her on live session. She is too good in drills. She will be back, not today, she'll be back another day. She's got an exam to worry about. So she was with me all day today, actually, so she needed some time to study tonight, which is more than fair. So, in a matter of 3 days, that we've finished the test, anyone with 6 wickets, pretty bloody ordinary. Pooja speaks to Star Sports. Of course, Robert spoke as captain. Cummins spoke as Australian captain. Jadace is a player of the match once again, and well deserved. He's an incredible player. And yeah, it's wonderful to see. But Pujara speaks about his 100th test, his family, and all the great traits that he has. I think he's been able to hold his head up high with his so-called victory. The loss is in the hands of Australia. Let's be honest. It's pretty hot here, I tell you. If they're feeling the heat there, they're going to be feeling the heat when they get home. Hi, Norman. Uttam Kumar Das, how are you? Pranav Jahaya, hey, mate, good to see you. I have one question. That too much aggression approach in this low pitch, bouncing turn of pitch, and that the two not trusting your own defence led to batting failure. Yeah, not trusting your defence is certainly an issue. There's no doubt about that. It's quite a massive issue, as a matter of fact. It really does annoy the bejeebus out of me, I'll tell you right now. And I don't want it to be continued in that way. So it's really quite disturbing, as a matter of fact. Okay, I'm updating my thumbnail on my. There we go. There we are. Select and save. Aussie didn't play spin at all. They didn't even play the straight ball well. There was nothing that Australia were doing. You'd have to classify Russell as the best con in the world. I think he's pretty much up there. Very cheeky guy, lovely guy. He's a good friend. I've known him for a fair few years now. Can always rely on a good word from him. It's bloody hot though. Very, very hot. They're talking highly of Ashwin and deservedly so. How much cricket is left in Ashwin? A lot. He doesn't exert too much when he plays. He holds back, I think, a lot, to be honest with you. I can see him being I don't think colleagues in angry. He's been in the naughty corner on occasions, yes, there's no doubt. But yeah, I haven't got any problems with him. So look here. We're going on. Showing match reactions certainly there. What's the video we're looking at here? This is the live 4-second test review. Messages that we've got 110 is the most consecutive. One's running a 1624. That's okay. I'm not in trouble with having an air or something or other. Okay, Avinash Aryan. Dravid said that they still want to back KL Rahul. What are you thinking? Well, I think they could do a lot better with someone of the class of, even Mayank Agarwal could come back in. There's a few players there, certainly. I wouldn't be too disgruntled by who they have or have not got. They're doing pretty all around, I'd say. Yes. No. Kuhneman, or perhaps also oh, here's David. Great when he's joined us. David. Are you there, David? I think David's almost there. He's in the background. I'll be coming with this shortly. Very, very impressive. So Timbo's better than Carey. Well, that's a bit hard to say that. I don't know whether you can really say that just at this moment in time. I don't think it's really that painful. I mean, I don't think Carey's a problem. That sweep shot was pretty awful. Plenty of other people were playing it before he did. So I don't think there's any issue there. Kuldeep still didn't appeal in anger in the series. Yeah, this is carnage. It is carnage. It is very much like carnage. The media is now enemy of Australian cricket. Well, I don't know about cricket, but maybe the selections. And I had Shane Austin today tell me very clearly that he thought he couldn't quite believe it. It doesn't make too much sense to him. What happened to Australian cricket attacking mindset and any deep worries in Australian cricket? I think that they were trying to be aggressive, just weren't able to play the spin. They had to be sometimes defensive, which probably was going against the grain. Probably the nail on the head there. Too much of an attempt to be aggressive when they were nowhere near that. So Royal Boy has lost all respect for Australia. Why have you lost all respect for Australia? That's a bit of a heavy comment, I would argue. Oz will come very hard to India down under. They won't forget. Well, we won't forget, but it's pretty hard to forget from that sort of base, that low base. It's pretty ordinary, to be honest. Australian media cries against India's dominance. There's a little bit of that going on. Broomstick attitude. I'll never forget the day we had a collapsed scrum, and the scrummaging was mainly around the lack of understanding on what the keepers should do and where the frontline defenders should be, and a lot of scrapping going on. Allegedly, a huge problem, to be honest with you. Why is Australia playing like this? I don't know. True facts, I don't know. Hemeth Rush, because of other players' form and Mars and Smith are unable to play the Notre game. It's partly true. Partly true. Partly true indeed. Is there? I mean, where is David Graveney? I can see a guest thing. He's disappeared. He must be close to him. Is there enough talent in Australian domestic cricket circuit to carry Australia's future? I don't know. I don't think so. Vignesh Karnara, not as as detailed as what you have in. Certainly not in the case it got in India. And India certainly has a plethora of. I would argue a lot of great players. So, there's a lot more to gain from that combination. So I want a good state place. I think David Graveney to join us. David.
One.
You're there.
Me on my computer, they're blocking my camera and mic. But hopefully that's a bit better.
Oops, we've lost you. We'll get David in a minute. We'll be going 34 minutes. We've got almost 2,000 viewers. That's not bad. Happy with that. It's pretty good. We lost David there. So I've got quite a few videos coming out. I've put one there. I had a chat with Russell Arnold today at the SCG. I had a chat with Shane Watson. I got a few souvenirs from him, a bat, and a guy called Brucey Cook, who is basically Bruce Longmore, an old rugby league champion who I used to play against. Legendary player, actually. Very, very legendary. Okay, we're waiting on David coming. Purple Ralph Lauren shirt, perfect for a Sunday. This is blue, actually, not purple. It looks a bit purplish. Is overconfidence hitting them or overthinking? Or the Australian side? I think they think they're good. Is that a bit of overthinking? I think a combination of both. They think they're a bit too good for themselves. especially Head. His performance was not good. I'm sorry, he got 40 in the seconds, but it was when they needed it most. He should have stayed there. He didn't. And he got 12 in the first. So I think he should be dropped. He should have been picked in the first place. And whatever happened is beyond me, because we centre on this guy. He's had a few issues with relationship, namely marriage, but then it doesn't have to go off the deep end either. Vignesh Kuna, is the sacking of Justin Langer, has it affected Australian team preparation to any bit compared to example? No, I don't think that's the issue at all. I don't think it's the coaching of Langer, or for that matter, Andrew Gladden, when I was much more carefree, which can work for some players and certainly not for others. I'm going in for it. I look at my stomach and the hernia and all those issues. Rib card is a bit sore and groin problems, but nothing that's unbearable. But then, is there more going on? I'm coughing a lot. Might be something that I need to worry about. Krishna Mohan, still missing score-year-old Aussie teams. Nathan Bracken, and all breaking up spine of Indian top water. Okay, I think the Indian top water is very good. Remove nephew Payne was much better. Okay. Well, no one's talking about him. I don't think so. He's not a good concern for my way of thinking at all.
A little bit more demons that aren't there. A little bit more.
I don't know what to do. Well, I had from Russell Allen's a good friend versus a Sydneyite now, you'd have to argue. Got the one there from that'll happen actually. Using no reason to worry about. Okay, basketball. Remove Renshaw. Yeah, we've talked about that. Baseball not working in India. Visitors should have trusted on their defence. Yeah, but I think Australia's using baseball as such. A bit more aggression, yes, but not baseball. Who will replace David Warner in the coming future? Well, great question. It should not be Travis. So that's a massive mistake. I think I was right. It was one day format. You can do whatever you like, but Test cricket should not be. I don't know what's happened to David Graven. He's still missing in action. It's bloody awful, actually, in these sports. Now, England and New Zealand. I wanted to talk with David Graven. He was just here a second ago. Saw me a butter tree. Why not actually go for excellent? Like, well, I agree. Well, I mean, Koeman didn't bowl too badly, but they thrusted him in front of both Murphy and Lyon to start with. David.
Hi, Norman.
How are you?
I'm fine. I've had to do it on my phone for some reason or other. It doesn't work on my computer, but I can hear you. So
I can certainly hear you, and you can hear me, which is good.
Good.
Now I've had a great weekend, by the way. Before we get into the Test matches, I spent Saturday with my beloved SCG11 against, of all teams, and Chris Verner should know that's the MCC on the SCG. And we had John Moss, who played for Victoria, playing for us in the past, and we had Russell Grimson, who played a bit of, he was very close to playing for New South Wales, but a pretty solid team, but we still lost. Anyway, and I enjoyed the day on the SCG. But then the next day, I'm back again. Yesterday, I'm back again. Or back today. We had a game, a multicultural cup. We had 8 teams. We had Australia, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. Would you believe Lebanon?
Right.
Nepal and Afghanistan.
Very good.
Who do you reckon made the final out of those 8 teams?
Well, it's obviously somebody random. So Nepal, did they make it?
They went close, but in fact, it was Lebanon versus Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka won.
Oh, good.
And we had Russell Arnold there. He's a good mate. He was gloating about Sri Lanka, and we had Shane Watson there as well. He
All
was
right.
selling his new book. Here's a new book. I got it actually. Yeah, they were spectators, and they kind of gave away the trophies, and it was a great day.
Good. So they weren't looking at what was happening in Delhi then.
Well, I was on my iPad, and a lot of people were making remarks accordingly, and that was. I mean, we'll start with the Australia-India test first, Dave, before we go to England and New Zealand. I can't believe the stats. 31 of the 40 wickets to fall in the 2 sets of innings went to Jadeja and Ashwin. They're amazing, aren't they?
Well, I did say that before we started, that Duncan Fletcher had always thought that Jadeja was the most valuable player, like the MVP, in terms of what he brings to the stage. He's had peaks and troughs and injuries, but and he actually, ironically, Norman, was a great advocate of sweeping. But if you do sweep, you've got to have a plan of what you're trying to do, and it's not just a desperation shot. And for the number of players who got out to the sweep, given the pace that Jadeja in particular bowls, that's not the right tactic for me. Unless you're very good at it and you're using it for a reason. In other words, you're trying to put people behind the wicket so it opens up gaps in front of the wicket. And that normally, if you had the Flower on this call, who was one of the first exponents of doing it, that's what he would say. You've got to have a reason why you're doing it.
So how would you play, for example, Ashwin, Axar Patel, and even Jadeja? What was your tactic be?
Well, it would be difficult, to say the least. But the spell that they had when they started the second innings was sort of measured aggression, as opposed to you can't stand there and block. That's the first thing, because the bowler just get better and better and better, and it's difficult because a lot of the LBWs that are given now, Norman, were not given in years gone by. So you could use your pad as a line of defence. And actually, one of the first people to change it was David Shepherd, who used to play with me at Gloucester, the England umpire, who kept giving out Carl Hooper, LBW to Shane, because he kept hiding his bat behind his pad. And his view was, you can't access your bat, so you're basically padding up. It doesn't matter if you have it just behind it. You're not around your shoulder. But they are world class.
Would you go forward though? Would you move forward as your motion, or would you go back?
I think you've got to try and change the length. I think that, and this is only in my little world as being a bowler, that actually somebody who moves around the crease to bowl at. If you're a static target, then you know what length to keep, tell you what pace, length to bowl. I think it is a long way back and a long way forward. And actually, when you're blocking forward, you've got to be in that position straight away, and you just play it with a dead bat. But that doesn't solve the situation of how you're going to score. So it's not easy. I have every sympathy. But it just looks to me like sort of some people trying to sweep. Well, they've never played a shot before in their life, and that is the worst error, I think. So, and Carey wants to play at every single ball. Well, I would have to say,
well, that's craziness. It works.
He's a better player than that. So
I think so. I think his dismissal was awful. He's a reverse sweep. The ball was nowhere near him. Pitched nowhere near where he was targeting. It's awful.
So they'll two chances to win. Firstly, when Patel and Ashwin started the bat, India were facing giving up a lead of 100, which is millions on that wicket. And also when they came back this morning, having been 69 for 1, which is a good position to be in.
Oh, for sure.
And the wheels came straight off. So,
well, again, I know I knocked Travis Head enormously. Now he's been brought back on the side. He went to open it with a point of injury, and they're using the words panicked and did something not natural. That's Ian Chappell's words. The reality is they just tend to force the issue when they don't need to. There's no patience been shown at all. And that one of the traits of Khawaja and even Hanscom is an element of patience. I think some of the batsmen.
Yeah, I think Kawaji would probably have to look at his mode of dismissal, in is that he's seeking to just deflect the ball. So if you're fielding bat pad and you know that that's the chosen option, then you're going to not go run for cover. When you're bat pad, you know that somebody's shaping up to play a sweep. Now it could be a really hard sweep, and human nature would be that you'd try and take evasive action. The fact that how he got out was just going to be a deflection, then you can have a bravery pill, and it was a really good catch, but it was just a deflection.
Yeah, look, I'm very concerned about the Australian. There's an element of panic about their selections. They've jumped around like a yo-yo after one match. They didn't need to do that. Hang on, I lost the stand. I mean, if you drop Travis Head, David,
Yeah,
the first test, just then stick to it. Don't bring.
well, you can also actually put your hand up and sort of made a mistake. There's no wrong with that. But what I don't understand is what have they said to Ashton Agar then? He's been selected in the squad as a left-arm spinner, and then they want to play a left-arm spinner. It's fine, but they ship somebody else in. Just extraordinary.
Oh, it is extraordinary. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Unless he's injured or he can't, he's not landing it at all. Now that can be the case, but how did they explain that in the media?
Well, they can't. I mean, Andrew McDonald's in his interview was quite apologetic and how much he got wrong, but it was more George Bailey, I think. And I rather like George Bailey. I think he's a very astute man, but he seems to be going on the wrong track. I spoke to Shane Watson today at length, and Shane said he can't remember the last time they went to a test match with one fast bowler.
Yeah.
Even in India. And India show that by having both Shami and Siraj in their lineup, as well as their three spinners. You can't go into a test match with one medium to fast bowler. And you can't go into recognised bowlers.
The problem is, Norman, if you're and again, I think Norman Duncan wasn't the most astute person in the world, but he recognised, as I did, is that you can't pick seam bowlers and spin bowlers you can't bat, because otherwise your tail starts at 6. And in the end, the runs that are scored after that are game-changing runs. Whether it be Gilchrist launching your seamers up to all parts of the ground, or Rishabh Pant doing the same thing, or in this case, the two spinners, they have a professional pride of not wanting to get out to other spinners, and they played. There weren't any trouble. They played really well. And I'm not saying that the spin bowlers that Australia have got are average, but world-class seam is better than average spin.
I agree. I mean, the fact is that Axar Patel could bat up the order. So could Ashwin. They're capable of scoring centuries.
Yeah, human action, and it was alluded in commentary. If you're not making a contribution with the ball, you make sure you make a contribution with the bat because you want to stay in the team. So Rahul Dravid's the team selection is really good. Green I think makes Australia a well balanced team, and when he's not there, the balance is really exposed.
But don't you think selectors would know that, and they would have been aware of that when Cameron Graham was injured, and should have a contingency plan in place? But they just didn't have one.
Well, the longer it goes down and he doesn't play, then he's not going to be in the best nick, is he? So obviously the injury was not wrongly diagnosed, but obviously the recovery time has taken a lot longer than they thought. So, which is a shame for him, but he'll be fit for England. Don't worry about that.
Oh, look, Australia's got a world of hurt, especially when we're now going to talk about England. My God, Australia would not beat England in a pink fit at the moment.
Well, I think a lot of things are going England's way, and I would have to say, not fussed whether who wins the match or not. They have to put a stop to these day-night test matches. They are so ridiculous in terms of just luck of the draw. As it happens, New Zealand won the toss on day one and fielded, which seems a remarkable decision to. And they've got. I think they've got some issues. I think the the situation around Bolt would have been destabilising to the team. They've got a world-class bowler there that they chose not to pick.
Yeah.
And they went in with a seam attack, which is just one bloke.
Yeah, it's awfully strange. And look, the I mean, Daryl, there's a Daryl Nichols, is that his name, that middle order batter for New Zealand? He's the only one with guts, I reckon, in that side.
Harry Nichols.
No, not Harry. It's Nichols. What's his? Isn't it Daryl Nichols?
No, Daryl Mitchell is you're talking about, isn't
Mitchell.
it or not?
My mistake. I'll get the names right. Daryl
Yeah.
Mitchell. He's showing lots of guts. He's a guy that I have a lot of faith in, and even Blundell, the keeper.
The keeper does really well. So yeah, Mitchell had it up to a straight ball in the first innings. They was going to go nowhere other than hit the stumps, but you can make those mistakes. I just don't think New Zealand in a fantastic. You know, they changed the captaincy, which is fine. I just don't think they're functioning in all cylinders, and England definitely are. So,
but we mustn't forget they're up against a bloody good side, aren't they? I mean, realistically, England are in great form, and if you go through the England line, was that Crawley's a bit iffy? But he's still good.
I think they're playing bullying cricket, Norman, England at present. That they just don't give the sides a chance to settle from ball one. They're very happy about what they're doing. They're well led, and the environment is right for people to express themselves. So I'm yet to work out. This is a thing for you to work out, Norman. Stephen Fleming was using the word nighthawk. What's he implying, as opposed to night watchman?
I don't quite know what the words thing that's going on there.
It is that Stuart Broad, you know, the night watchman normally blocks in order to protect the major batsman down the other end. A lot of people, I can remember talking to Dean Jones. Why have a night watchman? You know, you could be out. You could be out the next day's second ball. So, you know,
Exactly.
just go and he was regarded as a sign of weakness that you're hiding away and sending somebody who can't bat instead of your position, which I would agree with.
I think it's a very non-baseball move to have a night watch.
Yeah. So they did that, and I think a Nighthawk, in terms of Broady's situation, he can't block. The only way that he can play is attack, which has happened with his second ball, which he just slogs straight up in the air. But
it's effective. It's effective, though. I mean, I'm very happy with Ben Duckett. Ollie Pope's very sound. Root, we know how good he is. Harry Brooks really made that middle order his own. Then you've got Ben Stokes, who's unbelievable at the best of times. Ben Stokes is very sound at batting, very talented as well.
Yeah.
Rod Knowles, Ollie Robertson can also bat. Jack Lee's the only bunny there.
Yeah, but Ben Stokes, you'll see when he comes to India, he's a really good player of spin. So I don't see India. I see them producing the same type of wickets, particularly if they end up, you know, crushing Australia. And in essence, they've won inside 3 days in this second test match. Yet, at the same time, Australia had 2 chances to get themselves in a strong position. I know it can change very rapidly, and then the end result seems miles. But, you know, it wouldn't have taken too much for them to have, you know, got into a reasonable winning position. So,
do you think Australia's going to actually get 5 bowls for the next bloody test and stop this 4 bowls with a part-time option?
Well, they're not exactly getting millions of runs either, Norman. So it is, and I do feel for George Bailey and the other selectors is that, you know, they're leaking on both sides of the fence at this stage. So which one do you want to attack? They've got to get 20 wickets somehow. But also,
I think England's going to have a nice old purple patch. They've already had a purple patch. They're going to continue it on well into June when they play the Test series against Australia.
I think the England wickets will. Playing in India is as tough as it can be, Norman. Not that I've actually played there. I've watched Test matches there, and you know, once they get their tails up and they're playing as a unit, they're very difficult to beat.
Oh, it's fantastic to watch, and I'm very much looking forward to when, well, Australia will play New Zealand I think that's happening. not very far away. I think it's going to be very exciting. And
So what have
I
Australia
wouldn't even mind saying.
No, what have Australia got to play before they come to England? In terms of red ball cricket.
I think that after this Test series in India, they've got a series of ODIs and T20s also in India.
Right.
They've got people going off to do IPL commitments, of course, which will take up quite a bit of time. Otherwise, not much else.
Well, England are the same, mind. They've got another test against New Zealand, and not wishing to be disparaging against Ireland. They've only got 2 matches against Ireland before they play Australia. So,
but I must commend the way England are playing. The MCs who played on the weekend were a lovely bunch of people, and it was a really classic, hard-fought match, and it was very clean and honest. I liked
Was
it.
that people living in Australia then, Norman? Oh,
so MCC residents. Right. I think one of the players came out who was based in England, but came out and they played a pretty good Australian side, or at least the SCG 11, and they won. And they looked. Their batting was a lot of youthful bats and very good bats.
Yeah, no, I think they're. They've had a bit of a change of personnel at the MCC, so I think they always fight the battle of trying to attract younger people to come to the club. And now they've got the other issues of the LGBTQ scenario and how they should be embraced. That's probably the wrong word, but how should they reflect that within their activities? And a number of clubs.
How strong is Surrey as a club at the moment?
Sorry?
How strong is Surrey as a club at the moment?
Oh, they could buy out. Surrey are the only club in the country who could live without the support of ECB.
Right.
For a period of time, not forever, but they've got enough resources to be able to do that.
So they dominate the player market when they buy.
They obviously lose quite a lot of players to England. They've got a really they've cornered the market in terms of when they play T20. Norman, that they play it on a Friday night. And transport out of London, and it's the same as probably the Sydney teams and the Melbourne teams. People choose to go to the cricket rather than go home, just for a couple of hours, rather than sitting on a tube when it's hot, and just go with your mates and see that. So their crowds have always been fantastic.
What's the weather like there at the moment in England?
Quite mild, but they're suggesting it could get a bit colder. But yeah, the people scattered everywhere playing at present. The sort of academies playing or going on tour. The A team is in Sri Lanka, just about to finish. The under-19s have just finished in Australia, having lost last night by 10 wickets. So that's a sobering awakening for them. But I think a lot of them have never been away for that period of time, no one. So I think they were tired mentally. I think.
It just seems to me that the depth in cricket has certainly grown in a place like England.
I think it's a cool thing to do. The way that the team is playing is inspiring the nation. I think it's a very nice, good place and I think this is where England have followed the Big Bash. Is trying to make it a much more family environment to go and watch.
Yeah. But I'm hearing a lot of people saying to me about the Big Bash, for example. Oh, isn't it fun? The kids really love watching it. And I go, well, what about the standard of play? Is it easing back to become more park-like in a game? And there's an element of that going on.
Well, I think what the Big Bash is losing is that, and I'm sure it will happen when England have the 100-ball game, is there's so many other things happening around the world, is that it's like a revolving door, each team. You never know who's actually playing and who isn't. So, and I think that happened with the Big Bash. But though I would have to say, the final was a really good game. So
yeah.
But it's no wonder. Yeah. It's no wonder the Scorchers are quite a dominant team because I think they seem to have a greater team spirit, and particularly with the public, I assume this is Western Australia versus the rest of Australia.
Exactly.
They take a lot of pride in their team. So
I don't know why Wien is trying to bother with WA, because they play their own to their own trumpet, and they're very isolated in terms of location as well. Unfortunately, let's be honest.
So what is the? I suppose a bit early. What is the press speculation about who should play the next game for Australia?
In terms of opening,
Well, anything, because they know what pitch they're going to be playing on. So, and I'm sure the ground staff have watered the pitch at Delhi, so they can't practice on it. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, it's going to be a spin-friendly wicket to the absolute hilt. Indoor apparently is very spin-friendly. So realistically, the likes of Murphy, even Kuhneman, and/or Agar with Lyle will stay. The question is whether they need to bolster up their overall bowling numbers from 4 to 5, and not part-timers. They must be distinctly either an all-rounder or a bowler. And I think we can actually afford to do it, because we've got to take 20 wickets. We're going to take 20. Sorry, this stands playing. We're going to take 20 wickets. Now, we're not going to do that if we can't. We can certainly. We're struggling batting, but we need to be able to have five, a number of bowlers, and 5 has to be the number. Don't you agree? You can't go in a match with 4 recognised bowling expecting people out.
well, as I said to you before, the only time I've seen it really work every single day of the year is McGrath and Warne. And as far as Australia could play another two people, whoever they are, really. So they were quite happy to go in with 2. It's a risk if somebody got injured.
Or imagine if Cummins got injured.
Yeah. So yeah,
And that leaves you with 3 spinners.
Well, that's why India played 2 seamers, because you try to cater for that situation. Now, Shiraj is not going to bowl that much, but he could get somebody out. You never know, with a second new ball or.
Well, he did, didn't he? He got Warner out, didn't he?
Yeah, 2 for 2. So going in with 1 seamer, I think, is high risk.
We're exposed. We've got 4 bowlers we're putting. We can't find a true 5th bowler. We're now exposed to the opening position with Warner now injured indefinitely. So
he's probably grateful to get out the firing line, I would imagine. So
I think you're right. I think he'd be quite happy just being home and go and hide somewhere.
Well, if he's injured, he's injured. But I'm sure he's desperate to go to England. And the more time he failed in India, that was going to be unlikely. So anyway, we'll see how.
Well, he was sitting with Steve Smith in the stand today, so he hasn't gone anywhere. There was speculation he'd already gone back to Australia.
So good. So when are you doing the preview for the next one? When is the next one, Norman?
The next test?
Yeah.
Well, it was meant to be Dharamshala, but it's not. It's moved to indoor.
Is that
everybody's jokingly saying here they've moved it indoors. We haven't moved it indoors. We moved it outdoors.
Yeah.
Quite funny.
Is that next Saturday?
That's the 1st, 2nd. Might be the 3rd, actually. Let me have a look. I think it might be the 3rd, actually. Yeah, that looks like actually no, it's the 1st.
It is
the 1st to the 5th.
So you're going to do something the day before, or?
Oh, for sure.
Right.
And I want to talk more about England as well, because I really think they're the real deal. And I think that we're looking at the next West Test WTC cycle. If England keep their nose clean, they should be far and away the favourites to be part of that.
Oh no, they will be. They will be. But they haven't had any. They've got everybody back who's injured. The people that they might need for a different service other than New Zealand, like an Archer or whatever. But I'm not sure whether Archer can take a 5-day test match, and he certainly wouldn't be able to do back-to-back. But they could alternate Wood and him as an option. But then you'd end up going down the route of having to leave out either Broad or Aniston. At the current stage, you don't need to do that, do you? So,
look, England's in a good place. India's in a good place.
Yeah.
Australia appear to be in a good place, but they're actually not.
It's only 2 games, Norman, and they created, and having been completely battered in the first Test match, they did create some chances in this. That if they'd taken them, the margin would have been much closer, all the other way around, because they would have been
Well,
India
yes and
last
no.
night, 69 for 1, thinking, well, if we're going to chase over 200 here, this is going to be a problem. So, which it would have been. But there you go.
But the reality is, India turned it up a notch, and Australia collapsed.
Yeah, but some pretty. I know I only saw the shots for the wickets, but to lose 8 wickets for 28 is not great. Put it like that.
No. It was
So
pretty
no one else
embarrassing.
to go off and do some chores. So hopefully,
All right, Dave. Thanks for your thought.
see you on the 31st. Don't worry,
Okay.
it's only 1 game, Norman. Don't worry. Win the first
All right,
out of the next Test match, and it's all forgotten.
Thanks, David. I appreciate you coming.
See you later. Bye.
Bye. Now, David was, under circumspect, thinking Australia might get back in the future. I don't think it's as easy as it sounds. I think there's a lot more that has to be done to get Australia in a position to be able to say they're back, really. Cummins can't do it on his own. He was not as good a bowler on his own, for sure. Lyon was very admirable. He took a number of wickets and bowled pretty well. But then they didn't bowl Tom Murphy very much. They put Koeman on and gave him front and centre because of his left-arm delivery. Well, maybe it should have been Agar. Anyway, I think the Australian batting lineup will be chopped and changed yet again. They can't put a head in for regular opening positions, surely. They need to work that one out. And Renshaw's the other one they need to work out. So it's a bit messy, but I think Hanscom and Khawaja are the answer, especially on England pitches and even the Pakistan tour, which we'll go into one after that. So that'll be very interesting indeed. All right. So India smashed Australia by 6 wickets. Lead 2 on the series, third to a place called Indoor, which I'm not too wary about, other than the fact that it's not indoors. Okay, so Cummins should not be the captain. Paul Newman, I've kind of said that for a while myself. I agree. Reaper Olwyn, who is the Australian opener to replace? Well, that's a great question. It can't be Travis Head. And realistically, should be Matthew Renshaw that opened. But they went with this Travis Head batch ball style, which he doesn't exactly copy. He doesn't do as good a job, so a bit hard to call him in that position. But realistically, Australia need to work their opening batters out again. They may need to go to Curtis Patterson, who's playing for New South Wales. I would prefer to have him in there. He's proven himself in again. But Head shouldn't be there. Head shouldn't be in the side. That's my honest opinion. Right. Shubman Giri, 4-0 is on the cards. Of course, it's on the cards. It's still already. They're going to struggle to win any matches, let's be honest. They've already lost the series. It's only a drawn series now. To win back in England, well, they need to be able to, I don't know in England so much, but in South Africa, or they need to be more aware than what they are. They got to really get their act together. Riga Alwyn, what is the Australian newspaper saying? That's a good question. I haven't seen this stuff in the paper, but I'll get it tomorrow morning. I'll do one on that for sure. Be very interesting indeed, I think. Yes, well, this has been a good live. We've had a lot of quality discussion, a lot of good questions. I might call it quits tonight. I'm bloody tired, I'll be honest with you. I've had a pretty ordinary day in terms of heat. It's oppressively hot here. Very, very hot indeed. Australia should create dumbbells at home, okay? Why not? I'm not really into using them, a bit on the lazy side these days, to say the least. All right, guys, I think we've had a great show today. Again, India deservedly come out with a 6-week victory over Australia. They scored almost equal points over the 2 days, but the third day was a mess. It was India falling apart at the seams by some fairly solid bowling, but not necessarily spectacular. So good on you, India. In Australia's case, they're playing against India. So, yeah. All right. I've been following Australia media for a few days with Adelaide commenting on Smith has been taken negatively. Why? Especially ABC. Right? Yeah, they're kind of getting stuck into people like Alan Border and Ian Seville know what they're talking about generally. So I wouldn't take away from what they say at all. I think they've been particularly good and particularly sound. So no, I haven't got any problems with them either. All right, guys, it's boiling hot in here. We've done a good hour and 10 minutes of talk. India, to put it bluntly, are now 9 down, it can be 6 down. Whatever Wickets have taken, they're going to walk off into the sunset. They've now got that permanently in their hands. Until the others are still fighting for it, well, less fighting for it now, I would imagine. All right, good night, Paul Newman. Good night, everybody else. We'll talk to each other very soon again. But Station, I'm just going to go get a drink and come back to the last word. Okay, give me just two seconds here. Yeah, we're doing okay with numbers. So I'm going to just put the. Got some good videos. Got a good discussion with Russell Arnold about this test. Go and see the Russell Arnold video. We're having spoken at the SCG. Had a good talk to Shane Watson. You've got to be a bit more closer to the ear to listen to it. There's 2 good videos I put through. So they come out both Shane Watson and the Russell Arnold video. A couple of chats with Rapakshi Sharma and some of the people from me. So stay tuned to watch all those videos. There's quite a bit there, guys. I know you've been reacting very well to the discussions we've been having. So look here. Australian media reaction. The media reaction to two of the same video, right? Huh? My reaction was the first one, and the second reaction is, in fact, Russell Arnold. We're still yet to see Shane Watson's perspective. He'll come up next. All right. It's been hot and sweaty. It was long days. All right. Last 3 questions, and we're going. Why are the comments on Smith been taken negatively? Well, yeah, I agree. Alan Border's got rights to comment, and he comments generally very well. I haven't got any issues at all with him. Yeah, I've got a bit of a strange old couple Verma. Who do you think is responsible for the dismal performance of the Aussies? Coach Partly, certainly. Captain's him too. When Cummins gets too stressed with his own bowling efforts to worry about what has to do as far as his batting is concerned. And even better form than where he is. And that will be the way to do that. So Capital Verma. Okay. Is it too much pressure on him? Well, there shouldn't be. We've had a pretty easy series. We smashed West Indies and South Africa. Yes, India are a bit of a different kettle of fish, but they're at home. There are some excuses, not many. We shouldn't be knocking ourselves at all. Very typically, we shouldn't do that. All right. I think it's time to finish the broadcast. Unless there are any other questions, I'm not seeing any. We'll talk to each other. It's tonight, Sunday. I may see you Monday, but definitely during the week and a weekend, we'll start to hit more live discussions of the day from games, which include ones at the Spelling Care Shelter. So that's still happening. And then longer than that, we have some Aboriginal community issues as well, which we'll be sorting out. Basketball will be terrible if the India pitches. Well, I don't think they're going to bowl that radically, but they'll certainly spit at the type of game they're having. All right, I think it's time to call it quits. Baseball will be terrible in Indian pitches. Well, it's not. It's going to be a fun match, an approach in a fun way, also. All right, so when about Cummins as the last captain? Well, it might be, I'm not sure the last captain. If they're closing shop on captaincies, well, maybe he will be, but I don't know what's going on there. All right, guys, it's time to talk. Sign off. Thanks for watching. View, like, and share the post. Subscribe and share around. All the best.